talking to you about those beautiful, delicious Happy Meals, ways that you can ingest, digest, and make life just so much better, not just with nutrition, but with knowledge and information. So today it's about what happens in my house. And this is brought to you by my lovely, beautiful, who I love so much, mother. Um, because there's so many things that I was taught, and I'm sure it's like a lot of you, right? We were taught and we were raised in so many different environments, and sometimes our parents said things to us that we didn't really grasp the depth of it, like how much wisdom was put into it, how much wisdom was actually embedded in just such a simple message. The rest of the quote is, "What happens in my house stays in my house." When I was growing up, I didn't understand. I mean, I knew what that meant. Like, for me, what that meant was, if things happen in the house, you don't go outside those doors talking about it. You don't go out and tell everybody things that happen. Let's just say in the time we were younger, we didn't have food. You don't go tell people stuff like that. And I took it as almost like a shaming thing as a kid. I got it, but as I got older, I recognized that people don't know all the circumstances surrounding the event or the environment or whatever it is that you're talking about. So people start making these jump snap decisions, and then people always interject a lot of there, but what they think without knowing the full 360 of everything. They just go off of one perspective. You're probably thinking, okay, cool, Vernon, that's great, but how does this relate to relationships? So I was sitting back and I was thinking about this morning. I was taking my son to school, and I'm like, how does this really relate? Because I think it's important to bring this up how it relates to relationships. But I wanted to think about a more specific client story. And don't we love how life presents itself? I just got off the call with my lady, and all of a sudden, one of my clients calls me, and I've been working with this guy for over a year. Have a really great time. He has grown his business exponentially. If you are watching, you know I'm talking about you, brother. And it's nothing but love for you. Confidentiality in place. And when he gets on the call, I could tell he was a little distraught. And when I work with people, you do have access to me. Hey, what's going on? Shoot me a message. You can jump on the call, do our thing, call these laser sessions. But when he got on the call, I could tell that he was distraught. And so I'm sitting in the car, not driving because that's not safe. I'm sitting in the car and I'm talking to him. I'm like, yo, what's going on? And he's telling me, hey, blah, 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 blah. Things are going to go well with the business. So I said, okay, great. And he said, but I'm just having some problems with me and my lady. And I said, okay, cool. With the way that I do things, yes, I do take care of business. Yes, we get some amazing things. But when you are building something in your life, and I tell entrepreneurs this all the time, just anybody, listen up with this. Whenever you're building, whatever you're working on, whatever you are creating, you need to be thinking about who you want with you along this journey. You need to be thinking about who you want to celebrate with you. We always hear these expressions that it's lonely at the top. It's only lonely when you're not vetting people. It's only lonely when you're not auditing your circle to make sure you got the right people with you. Because there's no point in having a bunch of people on a boat with you if they're drilling holes in it. Be careful who you allow in your boat because they could be pulling holes in it. Please listen up. But back to the story. When I'm talking with him, I'm like, okay, what's going on? He said, it's my lady. And I'm just like, okay, what's happening? He said, she's just acting different. I'm like, what do you mean different? And he just said that just some of the things that she's saying, it just doesn't sound like her. They had a tiff. They had a little fight, right? No big deal. Water under a bridge. But he said it's the things that she was saying that was really getting to him. And I'm like, okay, because I'm big on, I need to hear all the details before I kind of interject things. And I'm listening. And they had a little tiff about some things. He did some things that she didn't like, and they talked about it. But the way she was coming at him was very dismissive, reductionistic. She was being a jackass, straight up. There's no way around it. Those are not my words. Those are his words. But what I'm teasing out is she was being reductionistic. She was being condescending, and she just started throwing those names around. And I'm saying those names because these names make me cringe every single time I hear them. Um, she said he was gaslighting her or something. And I'm like, okay. And not that there can't be any truth to that, but again, I listen. I'm always paying attention to what's being said. And I've worked with this guy for over a year. I've talked with his wife, and I'm not saying I have a great intimate relationship with her, but I've had very personal conversations with her, and that didn't sound like her. From what I understand, I'm like, okay, but granted, to know someone doesn't mean you live with someone. So I'm always looking at that perspective too. But the language choice of how it just became, da 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 da, you're this, da 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 da, you're that. over something that really, I'm not gonna put that out there. That's really not in my business to share. Um, but for something that seemed pretty small, so let me know it was obviously something else. Not being analytical, but paying attention. It's really not that big of a deal. Well, and I just sat there and I'm listening to him, and I was kind of puzzled because I said, what about her reaction or the word choices? What got to you? It was the decision for her to use that language. They've never had that. They've been together for over 10 years. And I'm just like, okay. And I sat there. And then once he got done, and, I did my thing, what I do. And I just said, hey, let me ask a couple of questions. I'm like, Mr. Client, who has she been talking to? And he just kind of sat there and he was kind of perplexed. And he's like, what do you mean? And I just asked, has she had any different types of conversations and new friends? And he said, well, it's funny that you say that. And I'm like, why? And really good friends come back into their lives, but more specifically her life. It's one of her friends, and this person's in a place. This person's going through some tough things, and I think it's amazing how people go in and friends swoop and protect each other and encourage one another and be with each other through dark times or tough times. And I was listening to him, and I just asked him. I said, how much does your lady share about your personal life? And I could hear him thinking. And he's like, I never really thought about it. And I was like, what have you heard? And it's like, well, she kind of shared some things. And that's when I kind of said to him, what happens in our house stays in our house, is what my mother would say. And of course, he kind of responded like, well, no, 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 no. She has to get her emotions out. And I said, I never said anything about that. I'm just saying what happens in our house stays in our house. And I kind of explained to him like I'm about to explain to you all. You need to be very careful. This is not a woman specific thing. This is not a man specific thing. This is just a people thing. You need to be very careful who you're telling your personal business to. And this is how this relates directly to relationships. So listen up. I know there's somebody who's listening, somebody who's watching who's been through this and knows exactly what I'm talking about. More than likely, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not everybody is in your boat for the same reason. And quite honestly, it's not that they have malicious intent, but when people are going through things, they can become a bit more defensive and even more offensive than what you particularly might need. That's just where they are. And I'm not knocking that. I'm not here to argue that. But what I'm saying is you need to be very careful of what you share about just in general your life, especially relationship and who. People don't know all the details. They don't know everything. And when one person is sharing, and I had to learn this lesson just like I'm sure a lot of us did. You don't share all of your personal business with everybody. I know we got to get things out. I'm just trying to say, make sure you're picking carefully who you're talking to. This person could be wonderful. This person could be great. But if they're in a place where they could be more negative, they could be more feeling more attacked, they are not going to necessarily be the best purveyor of intelligence and advice that's going to be well suited for you. Let me say it straight up plain English. Watch what you say and who you're saying it to, because not everybody's going to be happy for you. He's been in a relationship for 10 plus years, longer than that, quite honestly. But, they have a really great relationship. They've been through things, and couples who've been together for a while know exactly what I'm talking about. You go through things, but that's how you grow together. And where they are in a particular relationship and where this friend came from, I'm not saying she's conscious of it, but I don't think she's very happy to be there. I don't want to say misery loves company, but sometimes people like to be sometimes people like to see other people in the same situations. I'm not trying to speak ill. I'm just being real here. Be very, very careful. Now, in this particular situation, when I talked with him about, he said, well, how did you know that she had been talking with someone? And I just told him in plain English, I can tell by the language change. That doesn't even sound like, it doesn't sound like her. I'm not saying that I know her, but what I know of her, that doesn't sound like her. And when you have those type of like red lights, those bing, 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 those flashing lights on the dashboard, pay attention, because you need to make sure that people are respecting the relationship. Some people aren't going to like to hear that, but it's the truth. You have to keep your relationship respectful and respect one another. Sure, you need to get things out. Be selective with what you share. Sure, you need to be careful about how you process your emotions, and make sure you're processing it. Make sure you are processing it. And it's great that you do have someone to process it with, but that doesn't mean it's going to be to your benefit. And then when I was talking with him about this, he said, well, what do I do? I said, have you had a conversation about this? And he said, well, no, I never thought about it. And I said, well, this could be a great time for you to kind of get, yourselves closer. I understand that we want to get things out, but please, 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 and I'm trying to stay away from a certain topic. I'm dancing around it because it's not really beneficial right now. Be careful who you share your personal information with. Be careful who you share your relationship with. Be very careful. And I'm willing to open up that can of worms. I'm trying to dance around to keep it nice, positive, and friendly. But be careful who you share things with. I can't share that. I can't say that enough. What happens in your house stays in your house. I know we're in the world of social media where everyone feels entitled to your information. Sure, there is some degree of that, but they can know possibly where you live. They can come into your driveway, but that doesn't mean you invite them into your foyer. They can know that you're having some circumstances that are getting to you, but they don't need to know the details. It's just, we understand this when it comes to work. And we know when we're working in maybe a corporate environment or a small office, you don't tell the person who's working at the front door sometimes about everything you're talking about, or even maybe a coworker. But you have those select people that you speak at, and you have those really select people that you speak with. And let me talk about the difference. Speaking at someone is, hey, how you doing? Speaking with someone is, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm just having a tough time. But what's going on? We're working through some things. There's very few people that you can have those type of conversations with who will listen, who will empathize, and who will ask you the questions from a non-biased perspective. And you just don't want people spreading, running their mouths and rumors and all this, that, and the other. Nobody has time for that. As we get older, the thing that you always want to do is valuing peace. Peace. I did not value it the way that I do now. As I've gotten older, I've matured. And the same thing, having peace in the relationship is everything. I'm not trying to say that it's blind. I'm completely oblivious, but you just recognize that you don't bring chaos into your environment. You don't bring chaos in your house, and you damn sure don't bring it into your relationship. So choose wisely, because you could create an argument with someone who doesn't know all the details, who doesn't know that maybe your partner is going through things right now and they can't give 100% of what they would love to the relationship. And then someone who could be more volatile could say, oh, you need to end it. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, they're being that. They don't know. They don't. They're only giving you a perspective that is, one, biased because you could be more emotional. Two, the perspective is going to be distorted because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Be very, very careful, because if you are inviting chaos into your relationship, you're inviting a lot of trouble, and you control that. Respect goes a long way. I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on this. As my mom raised me, and I'm closing this out, be careful. What happens in my house stays in my house. And it's not about being private. It's not about being secretive. It's about being respectful to your partner. It's about being respectful to yourself. Don't invite chaos. I have seen so many relationships over my career ruined because people volunteering chaos into their lives. That one friend that you have who always has drama going on, use some common sense. Is that something that you want in your life? Then be very careful about what you share with them. You can love them, but love them from afar. You can love them enough not to bring your personal business in there. A relationship involves, relationships that are successful, relationships that thrive. For 1,000 people, there are 1,000 different kinds of love. I live by that, but I also know that there are some common basic tenets that we all can agree to, and respect is one of them. Be careful who you let into your house. Not everybody is going to be for you, and not everybody is going to understand the circumstances. Show love, show respect. I love to hear your thoughts on this. Keeping it happy, keeping it funky, but keeping it real. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 8:45 Eastern, 7:45 Central. Happy signing off.